I never classed myself as a goal scorer. I felt I was happy to play in the middle of the field and dictate play. In fact, two things that I tell people, and I don't think they believe me. One was that in front of goals, I panicked. And I could never remain cool and stroke the ball in. I panicked. But at the other end, if I was defending in my own goal mouth, I was as cool as a cucumber. I class myself as the worst professional footballer at heading a ball. I shut my eyes and hoped that the ball would hit my head. And I can remember even way back in my village days where two of us would stand about 10 yards apart and put down something for goalposts and play heading competitions. And the worst player in the village could lick me at this heading game. I really was my eyes are very sensitive. I remember when my first child was born, a baby on the knee, and if the child's arms came up, I was pulling my head back and oh dear. If I scored it with a header, it was because the ball hit me. I remember I scored once at Sheffield United. Pilkey flew down the wing and he whipped his ball across, and I was running into the goal mouth, and I shut my eyes and the ball hit me in the head and flew in like a bullet. And Billy Dougal, the trainer, was so over the moon at this goal that he bought me a drink on the way home. We stopped at a pub for scoring this goal with my head. That's flattering, but I don't know how they come across, how they judge players of what 80 years ago. Well, I remember I used to know an old boy called Bob Lord, not the Bob Lord, but this old man was in his 80s, and he was a fan in the days of Halley, Boyle and Watson, in the 1920s. And I remember we were walking through the park one night, summer night, the park across the road, and he turned around to me and he says, "McIlroy, you weren't a bad player," he says, "but Bob Kelly was that much better than you." But Bob Kelly was an inside forward, and he played for England, played lots of games for England. So if anybody ever mentions this to me, but Burnley's best player, almost Bob Kelly was better than me. Oh, well, Jimmy Adamson was a superb wing half. John Angus was a top class fullback. Ray Pointer, he wasn't a powerfully built lad, but he had terrific stamina, and he worked his socks off every match he played in, and he scored a lot of goals. And Jimmy Robson never got the credit that he should have done. Jimmy was a goal scorer, but what can I say? Because he was maybe one of us would go to the byline and whip the ball across, and Jimmy would be running in and poking it in from 6 or 8 or 10 yards out, and the fans would say, "Well, I could have scored that. My granny could have scored that goal." But Jimmy had. It's something you can't teach a player. He knew where to be in the right spot at the right time. In fact, I've seen him with the ball hit his knee and shot into the net. And I remember that happened once, and he turned around to me and he says, "I score all sorts."